I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing, not from messages, but from notifications. For a moment, I smiled. Maybe they remembered this year. It was my 28th birthday. And for the first 2 minutes of being awake, I let myself believe that somewhere in the world, my parents were thinking of me. Then I opened Instagram. The first post hit harder than I expected. My mom had uploaded a photo of my sister, Claire, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. Her caption read, "She deserves the world and Paris is just the beginning." There were hearts, comments, even a tag at Dad, at Claire, but not a single message to me. I scrolled further. My parents were in the pictures too, smiling in matching coats, champagne glasses raised under golden lights. And there, beneath the photo, was my mom's reply to someone's comment. "Our Claire's always been the one who makes us proud." That line stayed in my head like a cold echo. Always been the one who makes us proud. I stared at my reflection on the phone screen, messy hair, baggy shirt, cheap cupcake, sitting beside my laptop because I'd bought it for myself last night. A quiet celebration, because I'd learned not to expect more. Still, I couldn't stop my hand from shaking as I whispered, "They forgot again." I tried to laugh it off, turned on the coffee machine, played music, even texted a few friends. But the silence from home was louder than anything else. At noon, my phone finally lit up. A voicemail from Mom. "Hi, honey. Hope you're doing fine. We just landed in Paris, can you believe it? Anyway, we'll call you once we're back. Take care, okay? No, happy birthday." Just that. I listened to it twice, then a third time. Not because I didn't understand, but because part of me still hoped I'd misheard. I hadn't. By evening, my apartment was dark. The cupcake had melted a little, and the frosting slid down like it was tired of standing, too. I lit a candle, sang happy birthday under my breath, the saddest version I'd ever heard, and blew it out. People say childhood memories are supposed to feel warm, like sunlight caught between leaves. Mine felt more like fog. You could move through it, but never see what was ahead. I was 8 when I first realized that love in our house came with conditions. That morning, I'd run to the kitchen, waving a certificate first place in the county art fair. "Mom, look, I won," I said, handing it to her. She smiled, distracted, as she checked the oven. "That's nice, honey. Claire got an A+ in science today. Maybe she'll be a doctor one day." I nodded, pretending I hadn't heard the dismissal. My certificate stayed on the counter until the edge curled and yellowed. By 13, I'd stopped showing them my drawings. Art wasn't a real skill, according to Dad. He'd say, "You should focus on something practical, Rachel. Like your sister." Claire was everything they wanted. The straight-A student. The social butterfly. The one who never failed. And me? I was the one who stayed up late doodling on the back of old receipts, hoping someone would notice that I was good at something. There were dinners where my silence became the joke. Claire would talk about her achievements, and Dad would say, "You should learn from your sister." Mom would nod, smiling in approval. I'd pick at my food and think, what's the point of talking when no one's listening? One Christmas, Claire got a new laptop for her studies. I got socks. When I asked why, Mom said, "We have to invest where it matters." It wasn't just the gifts or grades. It was the small things, the way they introduced us to relatives. "This is Claire, our future doctor." Then, "And this is Rachel, she likes to draw." I remember a family barbecue when an uncle joked, "Maybe Rachel can design Claire's hospital logo someday." Everyone laughed. Except me. When I turned 17, I applied for a summer art program in Paris. I'd saved for months, selling sketches online, doing odd jobs. The acceptance letter arrived in a pale blue envelope. I cried when I read it. Paris was my dream, the place I'd drawn since I was a kid. But when I showed it to my parents, they exchanged that look. The one that always meant no. Dad sighed. "Rachel, that's too expensive. And frankly, it's not practical. Claire needs new prep materials for her med school exams." Mom added, "Paris will always be there. Your sister's future comes first." I nodded, trying to smile. But that night, I tore the letter into pieces and flushed it down the toilet. I told myself I didn't care. I was wrong. Years later, I'd see Claire standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, our parents smiling beside her, and I'd realize they hadn't lied. Paris was still there. Just not for me. I used to think rock bottom would come crashing down all at once, a scream, a slammed door, something loud enough to warn me it was happening. But mine arrived quietly. It started with an invitation. The local gallery where I'd been volunteering was hosting an exhibit, New Voices in Design. The curator liked my digital work and offered me a corner wall. It wasn't Paris, but it was something. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I could make them proud too. So I called home. "Hey Mom, there's an exhibition next Saturday. Oh, next Saturday?" She interrupted. "Sweetheart, that's the same night as Claire's corporate event. She's presenting her first project." I paused. "You could come after? It's open till 9. Mom sighed softly, the way people do when they don't want to sound cruel. "Rachel, you know we can't be in 2 places at once, but send us photos, okay?" Then Dad took the phone. "Rachel, don't take this the wrong way. We're proud of you, but these art things, they're not exactly stable. Claire's event could really help her career." I thanked them and hung up before my voice broke. The night of the exhibition, I wore a thrift store dress I'd ironed twice to hide the wrinkles. The gallery smelled like paint and coffee, that blend of chaos and creativity that always felt like home. My friends from work came. Even my old art teacher showed up. But not my family. Every time the door opened, I looked up expecting them. They never came. By the end of the night, my corner was empty, except for the leftovers of a cheese platter and a single flower from a stranger who'd said, "Your work made me feel something." I should have felt proud. Instead, I walked home in the rain, clutching the wilting flower like proof that someone, somewhere, had seen me. When I got home, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Claire's presentation was a hit. The whole firm applauded her. We're so proud." No mention of my exhibit. Not even a question about how it went. I sat on the floor. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just unloved, I was unnecessary. The next morning, I packed a suitcase. No announcement. No argument. I left a note on the kitchen counter that simply said, "I'll stop disappointing you." I moved into a tiny apartment downtown. Walls thin enough that I could hear my neighbor's dog bark at every car horn. It was lonely, but it was mine. For a few weeks, I waited for a call, a text, anything. Nothing came. And when I finally accepted that silence wasn't an accident, I stopped checking my phone altogether. There's a strange freedom that comes after heartbreak. It's not peace, not yet. It's just emptiness with room to breathe. That's where I lived for a while. Not thriving. Not dying. Just existing. Until one day, I saw an online post that would change everything. A photo of Claire in front of the Eiffel Tower. Again, the caption read, "Back where dreams come true. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for always believing in me." And just like that, I felt my hands go still. The same city I'd once begged to see. The same family that told me we couldn't afford it. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. And somewhere deep inside, a part of me that still believed they'd ever love me equally finally died. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. Not my parents. Not Claire. One morning, I just stopped showing up. At first, the loneliness was unbearable. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone, half expecting a call that never came. There were nights when I'd sit by the window, watching lights flicker in other people's homes, imagining what it felt like to be missed. Bills piled up. Freelance design jobs barely covered rent. Some days, I skipped meals so I could pay my electricity bill. Other days, I'd find comfort in sketching the things I couldn't say out loud. One evening, my downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Jennings, knocked on my door. She was in her 70s, always wearing the same floral robe and slippers. She held a small casserole dish. "You didn't pick up your mail again," she said. "And I made soup too." I tried to protest, but she waved me off. "You remind me of my daughter," she said quietly. She used to forget to eat when she was sad. After she left, I sat on the floor and cried harder than I had in months. Not because of the soup, but because someone, finally, had noticed I was sad. The months blurred together. I worked long nights doing design gigs, logo drafts, and social media templates for small businesses that paid in exposure or gift cards. Every now and then, someone would ask, "Why don't you call your family?" And I'd say, "They're busy." It was easier than explaining that being forgotten had become a routine. Still, something began to shift. One night, while scrolling job boards, I found an online ad for freelance illustrators. The company name caught my eye, Blue Atlas Studio. They wanted artists for a campaign about rediscovery. It felt like fate was mocking me. I almost didn't apply, but something inside whispered, "Try one more time." So I did. I stayed up until dawn, creating a portfolio messy, emotional, real. Every sketch told a story I was too afraid to say out loud. A week later, I got an email. "Your work stood out. We'd love to collaborate." I read it 5 times just to make sure it was real. And for the first time in a long while, I smiled not for anyone else, but for me. It's strange how new beginnings rarely feel like beginnings. They feel like exhaustion, quiet, reluctant, and fragile. That's how it was for me. Blue Atlas Studio started me on small projects, designing icons for apps, illustrations for mental health campaigns. The pay wasn't much, but the messages meant everything. Each brief said things like, "Make it feel gentle," or "Draw what healing looks like." I didn't know what healing looked like, but I knew what hurt felt like, so I drew that instead. And somehow, people saw beauty in it. The work gave my days rhythm again. Coffee at 7, emails by 9, sketching till midnight. I filled my walls with post-it notes and pencil smudges, pieces of myself rearranged into something resembling a future. Mrs. Jennings would still knock sometimes, leaving biscuits and gossip at my door. One afternoon, I got a video call from a creative director named Leo, the kind of man who wore too many rings and spoke like every sentence was a brainstorm. "Rachel," he said, grinning through the screen. "That last design? It hit a nerve. We're featuring it in the campaign." I blinked. "Wait, seriously?" "Seriously. People felt it. You've got something raw that others don't." For a second, I couldn't speak. No one had ever said that to me, that something I made mattered. Over the next few months, work picked up. Clients came through word of mouth, the artist who feels what you can't say. I didn't make a fortune, but I stopped counting coins at grocery stores. I bought new art supplies, replaced my broken chair, even painted my apartment walls white. Then one evening, I opened my inbox and froze. "Dear Rachel, we'd like to invite you to our annual Global Creative Summit in Paris. Your work has been shortlisted for the Emerging Voice Award." Paris. The word blurred on my screen, but my heart understood it instantly. The city that once stood for rejection, now whispering an invitation. My breath caught. It wasn't my parents' money this time. It wasn't a family decision. It was mine. I booked the ticket that night. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to the 16-year-old me who once flushed her Paris letter down the drain. A week later, I stood in line at the airport, one suitcase, one passport, and no one waving goodbye. And for the first time, it didn't feel sad. It felt right. Paris smelled like rain and coffee. The air felt heavier here, like even the clouds had stories to tell. When I stepped out of the airport, I half expected something to happen. Some cinematic moment, tears, music, closure. But all I felt was tired. The conference was at a small art center near Montparnasse. My name was printed on a badge. Rachel Evans, Blue Atlas Studio. No one knew me here. No one knew the girl who once begged to come to this city. No one knew how much it meant to just stand in this air. I spent the first day watching people, tall voices, loud laughter, confident handshakes. That night, after the event, I walked alone through the narrow streets. Every window glowed like a small universe. I stopped at a cafe near the river, the same one from all the travel blogs, the one I used to draw from memory. It was smaller than I imagined. Less perfect. More real. I ordered tea and pulled out my sketchbook. Across the page, I drew a table with 2 chairs, one empty, one occupied. It wasn't meant to be sad. It was meant to be true. The next morning, I attended a panel on art and belonging. The speaker, a woman with silver hair and paint-stained hands, said something that stuck with me. "We spend so long trying to earn love that we forget belonging isn't something people give you. It's something you build when you stop apologizing for existing. I wrote it down, word for word, because for the first time, it didn't sound like something meant for everyone else. It sounded like something meant for me. When the awards night came, I didn't win. But when the crowd stood to applaud the winners, I did too, without bitterness, without envy. I was there. In Paris. In the city I once thought belonged to someone else. And that was enough. Coming home felt strange. The air smelled ordinary again, bus exhaust, laundry detergent, late-night takeout. It was hard to believe that the same hands that had touched stone bridges in Paris were now juggling grocery bags and keys that stuck in the lock. Still, I felt lighter. For once, I didn't need anyone to see me to feel real. A few days after I returned, my phone buzzed. Group chat, family updates. I hadn't muted it yet. A mistake. The newest post stopped me cold. A photo of Claire and my parents standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. Caption: 2 years ago, she made our dreams come true in Paris. Today we're back where she belongs, celebrating her new promotion. Same smiles. Same city. Same sentence. She's the one who makes us proud. For a moment, I just stared. That night, I scrolled through their pictures anyway, habit maybe. Then, out of nowhere, I saw my own reflection in one of the cafe windows behind them. I had walked past that same cafe weeks before, sketchbook in hand. They hadn't seen me. They never would. The next morning, I posted a picture on my own account, the first in years. A photo of that same cafe table, sunlight spilling across my notebook. No captions, no filters. I didn't tag anyone. But an hour later, Mom viewed the story. That night, she texted, "You were in Paris? Why didn't you tell us?" I typed back and erased a dozen replies. Finally, I sent, "You never asked." No response. The silence after that felt different, not cold. Just final. Like a door that had been half open for years, finally closing with a soft click. I didn't cry. I made tea, opened my laptop, and started sketching a new piece. I called it Distance. When I finished, I looked at it and realized it wasn't sadness I felt. It was relief. It started with a knock again. When I opened the door, Mom was standing there, older than I remembered. "Hi, sweetheart." "Mom?" I managed. "I didn't know you were." "I was nearby," she interrupted quickly. He's not well. And I thought maybe we could talk." I stepped aside without saying yes or no. She looked around my apartment like it was a museum, the sketches on the walls, the half-finished tea, the Paris postcard pinned above my desk. "You've done well for yourself," she said. "We've seen your work online. Your father's proud." I smiled faintly. "He never said so." She flinched. "You didn't make it easy to reach you." I wanted to laugh, as if disappearing had been a choice, not survival. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I know we weren't the best parents," she said. "But family should be there for each other. You're doing well, and we—" "Stop," my voice cracked, softer than I wanted. "You want me to help you now? When you couldn't even say happy birthday?" Her face fell. "It's not that simple." "It is," I said. "You chose what mattered, and it wasn't me." She sat down, defeated. "I didn't know how much we hurt you," she whispered. "We thought we were pushing you to be stronger." Then she said quietly, "You've turned out fine, haven't you? So maybe we did something right." And just like that, the pity vanished. I walked to my desk and picked up the Paris postcard, the one she'd sent me months ago. I placed it between us on the table. "You sent me this," I said. "Do you even remember what it said?" She frowned. "Something nice, I'm sure." It said, "Wish you were here." I met her eyes. "You could have had me there, Mom. All you had to do was care." She looked down, tears finally slipping through her mascara. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but sorry doesn't fix lonely." When she left that night, she hugged me. I didn't hug back. Not out of cruelty, but because some bridges burn too slowly to notice until all that's left is smoke. I didn't know then that it would be the last time I'd see her. It was early morning when I found the letter. No return address, just my name written on it. Inside were 2 pages, folded with care. "Dear Rachel, Your mother wanted me to write. She said you wouldn't answer her calls. I don't know where to begin. I suppose I should start with the truth. We failed you. We loved you in our own way, but we didn't see you. You were quiet, independent. Claire needed us, or so we told ourselves. But maybe it was easier to love the child who mirrored us than the one who reminded us of everything we weren't brave enough to be. The house is quieter now. Your mother sits at the table every night waiting for the phone to ring. I don't expect forgiveness, Rachel. I just want you to know we see you now. Dad. I read it twice. The words blurred, not because of tears, but because my eyes had forgotten what softness looked like when it came from them. I folded the letter and placed it beside the Paris postcard that still hung above my desk. For years, both had been symbols of everything I'd never have: love and belonging. Now they just looked human. That night, it rained. I brewed tea, sat at my table by the window, and watched the droplets race down the glass. My laptop was open to a new design commission, a book cover titled Things We Learned Too Late. Weeks passed. No new letters came. No calls. No updates. And yet, I felt no emptiness. Just stillness. Because the truth was, I didn't need closure from them anymore. I'd already given it to myself. Months later, I took the same flight to Paris again. This time, not for work, just for me. I sat at a cafe near the river, sketchbook open, the same table by the window where I'd drawn before, and thought about my parents, about the girl I used to be, about the woman who finally stopped begging to be seen. Then I wrote a single line across the last page of my sketchbook. They sent her here for pride. I came back for peace.